In the US, 61% of middle school students say they'd rather take out the garbage than do their math. And when you ask them why, they typically say, I don't know what this means, and I don't know when I'm ever going to use it. And as a result, approximately half of the schools are failing. And teacher job satisfaction is at its lowest level. And I blame that a lot on this, the content that we're teaching. We tend to introduce math as a bunch of random skills for students to just memorize and regurgitate. And so at Mathalicious, what we're doing is we're rewriting middle and early high school math around real-world topics. For instance, Wheel of Fortune. In the lesson Wheel of Fortune, what students do is they begin by analyzing the wheel and determining how often as a percent each piece should come up.
Gotta get them out of there quickly. Oh, now that's... Oh, now you... What is happening here?
Well, what is happening? Well, back was supposed to come up 11% of the time, and it comes up 15%. And so from a student's perspective, this is what the lesson is about. But from a teacher's perspective, it's about all of this. Fractions and percents, probabilities, theoretical versus experimental probabilities, ratio tables. More math and less time. Let's look at another example. Bigfoot conspiracy, the name of the lesson. In this lesson, I don't know if y'all can see in the back, but you know, the bigger the shoe, the heavier it is. So students can calculate the cost per ounce, and they see that the bigger your shoe, the less you're paying per ounce. So is that fair? And should it work like this? And the answer, of course, is no, because I wear a size 12. But so we're putting students in a position to have conversations that are actually really interesting. Should Nike charge by weight? Should shoe companies charge by weight? But on the topic of shoes, we can look at another lesson, Pimp My Feet. Nike ID allows people to customize their shoes. You can customize every part of the shoe. And so the question is, how many color combinations are possible on this website? That's the math part. Right? That's where we're introducing permutations, but then it gets interesting.
One effect is that it produces paralysis. The second effect is that we end up less satisfied with the result of the choice than we would be if we had fewer options to choose from.
So there are 12 billion possible color combinations on Nike ID. But according to a Harvard professor, the more choices we have, they actually make us less happy. And so the question becomes now, is Nike a good business or is Zappos better? Zappos like here, there are 5, choose one. So what started as a lesson on permutations becomes a lesson on behavioral economics and on psychology. Now let's look at perhaps the most poorly taught subject in algebra, calculating equation in line. It's probably what's really familiar to a lot of us. And you can imagine why students react so badly to math. But we can turn this around. We can introduce this using the iPad. Based on the 16 and 32 gig iPads, how much should the 64 gig cost? This is pretty simple. When you buy 16 more gigs, you spend $100 more. So students can calculate you're spending $6.25 a gig, assuming that it's constant. Based on that, we can figure out how much we're spending on memory. $100 for the 16 gig, $200 for the 32. And so the price difference is $399 must be the base price. Now we know everything that there is to know about how much Apple is charging for the iPad, assuming it's linear. So we can come back to our original question, how much should the 64 gig cost? Well, based on this, it should cost $799. But if you go to Apple, you find out that it actually costs $699. It's not linear. Apple is not charging a constant amount per gig. Now, from the teacher's perspective, you're teaching all of these standards. But from a student's, the question is, why isn't it linear? Why doesn't Apple charge a linear amount? And maybe it's because with the iPad, if it were $800, then you might buy a MacBook Air. So what started out as a lesson on linear functions becomes a lesson about marketing. It's an MBA lesson in 8th grade. Last one, Sweet Tooth. Teach us around Halloween. Question is, as you eat more candy over Halloween, how does your enjoyment change with each piece of candy? And students invariably will draw something like this, and we can have them figure out how much each additional piece adds, so we can really have them come up with the derivative. But of course, we don't really care about Halloween candy.
And it turns out that below an income of $60,000 a year, people are unhappy, and they get progressively unhappier the poorer they get. Above that, we get an absolutely flat line.
So according to Nobel laureate in economics, Daniel Kahneman, under 60 grand, marginal benefit of money is positive, but at $60,000, it's zero. So what started out as a lesson on Halloween candy and on rates of change becomes something about the relationship between income and happiness. And so the question is, why math? Why are we teaching math? What is it about math? Are we doing it just so we can solve proportions? Or are we doing it so that we can actually explore the world and think about it differently? This why math question, this is something that students ask. When they see textbooks like this, of course that's what they're asking. Now, we right now happen to think that maybe Common Core is going to come along and save us, but when we look at the new Common Core version of the textbook, it's exactly the same. The only difference is this is Common Core, and we know because they write it right there. So the question, the point really isn't that we need to change the standards, but it's that we need to change our standard of what it means to teach math.